Welcome back to the Preppy podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here today and listening. This week I have a great interview. It is with Alexa. She's the influencer behind Charm Lane and now even has a jewelry brand, Charm Lane Collection, which seriously the pieces are stunning. I got one of her necklaces a few weeks ago and I was blown away. As you know, I work with a lot of brands in my PR business and then obviously with this podcast. But the quality, the packaging, how like a sturdy each piece felt, and all of the amazing little details on it, especially the blue and white little, I think it's like the Cape Cod token or something. That's what I have. And I was just so amazed. I texted her right away. So this is a really fun podcast because we chat all about her career, which is super impressive. She's worked at J. Crew and Meta, just has so much knowledge. And really thought about launching a blog and Instagram page with the long-term goal of creating a brand for herself, which I think is so smart and strategic. I loved how she really talked about that and all of her steps along the way. But before we get into that episode, just a reminder, you can follow along with me on social media at Patricia_May, MAE_Olson, OLSON. I share a lot of behind the scenes with the podcast, as well as with Camp Preppy, which we are just a few weeks away from our Dallas Camp Preppy, which at this point I believe is completely sold out. And then our Hamptons Camp Preppy in April is coming up, and we are over halfway sold out through that. So if you want to attend that, now is the time to get your tickets. I'm sure after Dallas, they will all be sold out by then, just because there's been a lot of interest in the Hamptons. So definitely look into that. Stay tuned for dates where we will be doing a fall and winter Camp Preppy later in the year. And just letting everyone know, if you're in the Palm Beach area, I'm going to be doing a live panel with Buru coming up in February. So if you want details for that, feel free to send me a DM or email, and I'll share details as those come available. And let's get into this week's episode.
All right. So why don't you let everyone know who you are, where you live, and what you do?
All right. Thank you for having me. My name is Alexa Archibald. I am the creator and founder of Charm Lane, which is a grandmillennial editorial destination, and also launching soon Charm Lane Collection, which is a grandmillennial jewelry brand. And we can go over my career, but I've spent the last 10 years in big tech and before that in corporate fashion. I live on the East Coast in a really cute coastal beach town in New Jersey, which people always ask me where I live, and it's fun. So I try to infuse a lot of like the coastal inspiration from my surroundings into my content and everything that I do.
Yes, and I have been following you for a while now, and we had the pleasure of meeting in person, I guess like a year or so ago, and I just hit it off with you right away. We had such a great time, and I love what you're doing. So I'm excited to chat and hear all about your career journey and what's next. But let's start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Like, were you someone entrepreneurial? Were you creative? Were you, maybe even techie then, since you had a career with big tech? So tell me about it.
Yes, for sure. It's so funny. I knew you were going to ask this because obviously I'm a huge fan of the podcast, and it just feels so long ago, Patricia. But I was like, what was it like as a child? Very creative. So the house that I grew up in had this like weird old basement. I convinced my mom to let me like decorate the basement, and I remember they opened a Target near my hometown, and we went to Target and we bought like really like ugly colored sheets that were on sale, like orange and like weird florals and pink. And I just decorated this basement. And then it kind of became like my craft space. So I was making bracelets. I love making those like string friendship bracelets.
Yeah.
I was, watching Mary Kate and Ashley movies. I had a very like 90s childhood, whatever you can picture that being. It was that. Obsessed with ABBA because for my birthday one year, my parents took me to see Mamma Mia on Broadway. And then it just became my personality. So I would perform Dancing Queen, for my family every single night. I just was obsessed with music and crafting, and I was making a ton of jewelry growing up. Like I had this giant bead kit, I actually still have it, and my sister had a matching
Aw.
one. And we were making necklaces. I remember my mom. We found like a bead store that was like an hour away, and we went to this bead store and we like bought all
Yeah.
these beads, and we just loved crafting. When I was a little bit older, I was very into academics, so I
Mm.
always loved school. I loved learning. I still do. And I try to tell myself, like, there's only so much you can learn. You kind of have to like execute and do. But I would say in my childhood, I loved reading. I like coming home from school and doing my homework was just like the highlight of my life. I
Oh my
remember,
gosh.
I know, I was just like such a nerd. I remember in high school, I would come home, I would do my homework, I would study, I would have Gilmore Girls on in the background. Sometimes I'd like mix it up and sit outside and do my homework, depending on the time of year. But I was very committed to my academics.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like that I kind of bring that theme of like love of learning into what I'm doing here, because there is a lot to learn in this like kind of uncharted space and
Yeah.
emerging industry of like content creation. And it's
Mm.
pretty much like a new business in the last 10 years. So there's not like
Yeah.
courses you could take. There's a lot of YouTube videos you can watch, but
Mm.
it's been such a fun challenge for me and a new way for me to think about things, to adapt and learn that new space. And that's been I would say probably my most fun part of this new endeavor in the last 2 years, because I only started Charm Lane in April of 2023. So it's pretty new
Yeah.
and fresh. But yeah, my childhood, so much fun, really close with my parents and my sister. But yeah, was just kind of a nerd, to be honest.
I love that. Well, first of all, I love how you described it as a very 90s childhood because I'm a 90s girl myself. And I think a lot of us were into beading, right? I feel like I've interviewed so many people. They're like, oh my gosh, the bead stores, like my bead kits, like that must have been such a 90s hobby. I'm like, do kids still do that? I feel like it's having a renaissance again right now, but it's just so funny. And I love how you love doing your homework though, because
Oh,
that
yes.
is
Loved
the
it.
complete opposite of me. I feel like I loved learning, but things that I was interested in only. And my mom would like force me to do my homework. I remember I'd get into so many like crying fits, being like, I don't want to do it, or like, I can't.
I want to do more. Like I remember I would do my sister's homework, and like they were like, "You're a freak." Um, and I would say very 90s. Like I loved Paint. Do you remember
Yeah.
Paint on
Yeah.
like the weird like software? I was just making
Oh,
things in
yes.
Paint.
Yeah.
I remember
Yep.
I was like printing. I'm very allergic to red dye growing up. I've grown out of
Okay.
it, but I was obsessed with all things red. So like Swedish fish, strawberries, cherries, and I would like make and paint um, like labels for these things in my
Oh,
house because I couldn't have them and I was like obsessed with them. But no, and then I kind of
that's
feel
so
like
cool.
that's what I'm doing in Canva now when I make like a collage. I'm like,
Yes,
this
it's
is
like
kind of like
Paint, that
paint.
app. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, too funny. So then tell me, when it came time for college, where did you go and what did you end up studying? Was it, something more techy then or more business?
So, shockingly, one of my dreams growing up was to be a dentist. So, I loved my childhood dentist. And when I went to college, I wanted to go pre dental. So, I actually went to Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. Beautiful. One of my best friend's older sister went there, and we went to visit her. And I was like, this is where I want to go. It's just a quintessential, gorgeous, like old world college campus.
Mhm.
So, I applied early decision, and I knew I was going there like very early on. It was probably like October at the time. It was like maybe rolling, but
Wow.
I was just so excited when I got in. And I was pre-dental until my first semester, and I was like, this just is not for me.
Mm.
So I did a hard switch to design. um,
Oh.
so like going from being in like chem lab to then being in like the woodworking shop, and then taking classes with like the 3D printer. They had a really incredible design building. I, at the time, was going through some health stuff where I was fainting a lot, which was
Oh no.
strange. but
Yeah.
I was always fainting in the wood shop. It was something about like the ventilation, and I was just always like in the emergency room for fainting. We couldn't figure it out. But even in my childhood, I was a big fainter. And I just was like, I can't like be in this musty wood shop with like this sawdust all the time. So I ended up
Yeah.
actually switching my major and declaring my major to behavioral neuroscience because,
Wow.
again, like nerd. Um, so I was a behavioral neuroscience major, and then I minored in journalism because when I got into Lehigh, I got a scholarship from the Rodale family, who
Okay.
at the time like owned Rodale Communications. Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
Um, so like Women's Health magazine. So I always had to keep an element of journalism
Mm,
in my studies. So I was a journalism
okay.
minor because of that scholarship.
Mm,
Even in high school, like I was editor in chief of the newspaper. I loved the newspaper. I wrote in the newspaper all in college. But yeah, it was fun. And I graduated in 3 years. So I was
wow.
very focused on getting out in the real world, getting a career, a job. Like I was just so hungry to work. In college, I was doing a lot of internships. But I was just like, I want to be out in the world. So I finished in 3 years, which was
Wow.
so fun. And then in my senior year, what would have been my senior year, I had the strategy of like wanting to work locally or like somewhere within driving distance to the school so I could still like come back and see all my friends and someone have like a senior year experience, but also like working 40 hours a week at like a corporate job.
Wow. I mean, that's impressive, especially switching your major 3 times to be able to graduate in 3 years. I'm like, that you must have had to really, be focused, like you said, and cram it all in, right?
Yeah. So well, I would say what I've learned from that experience was I was like quickly making up my mind. So
Mm.
semester one, I was like, I don't want to be pre-dental. Then semester two, I was like, let me try this design. But then I was fainting a lot in the wood shop. And then my sophomore year, I was like, I will just do behavioral neuroscience and journalism. And
Okay.
then sophomore year, junior year, and then graduated.
Excellent. So then tell me about sort of, your first career journey then. Like where did you end up? What did you end up doing in the first part of your career?
Yeah. So when I was interning at Scholastic, Lily Pulitzer was like rolling out this sorority print, and they were looking for sales reps for each of their sorority prints
Mm,
who were from each of the sororities they were rolling out the prints for. And it was like kind of this nationwide search. And I was like, I would love nothing more than to be the rep for my sorority for this print for Lily Pulitzer. I was always such a big Lily Pulitzer
yeah.
obsessed kid, like loved it. I loved all the colors. Um, so I applied. I did a interview. At the time there was an intern who this was like her program. This is part of her internship project. She was so sweet. Her name was Caroline. And I interviewed with the other intern and she was like, yep, you're the rep for your sorority. I was so excited. And then at the end of that summer, I was going into what would have been my senior year, but I had graduated. And I just remember emailing HR at Lily Pulitzer being like, I just wrapped up at Lehigh. Like I live locally. It's not that far. The Lily Pulitzer headquarters out of King of Prussia. I was like, I'm really interested in human resources. I studied behavioral neuroscience. I'd love to like intern for free if you'll have me. And I had a friend who was working in their design department and was also commuting from Lehigh. So I was like, I
Oh,
know
wow.
they're like open to it. And then they answered me. They're like, actually, we like really actually do need help in HR. Come in for an interview. So I went in for an interview, and luckily, I did not work for free. It was paid. So I worked 40 hours a week at Lilly as like an entry level HR talent
Wow.
acquisition. It was an internship, which I was like totally fine with because I just was dying to get experience in the fashion industry. And I really felt like it combined all of my backgrounds and studies and passions. And I absolutely loved working there. It was just a dream to be at the Pink Palace, and everyone there is so nice. I met so many incredible people. So I was there. And then at what would have been like the end of my senior year, all of my friends were moving to New York. So I always
Okay.
knew I was like, I definitely want to go back. And I'm from New Jersey, so it was like closer to family. And I just at that time had fallen in love with fashion and working in corporate retail. So I remember emailing like any fashion brand that was based out of New York, and being like unhinged, like just cold emailing, honestly, finding emails and just being like, here's my resume. 90% of the time to not hear back. And I emailed. It was this weird thing where anytime I was on an interview, I would get an email about like either a response from my like email blast or
Uh-huh.
being like, hey, you applied to this job, like come in for an interview. So I was like, ooh, like this is just like something in the universe. At the time, like Bobble Bar was huge. I was like, I would love to work at Bobble Bar. Was a huge fan of obviously J. Crew. And that was my dream, was to work at J. Crew. So I remember I sent an email to the head of talent acquisition, didn't hear back for probably 3 to 4 months. So I was like, okay, they're never getting back to me. But I remember saying like, I interned at Scholastic in talent acquisition. I've been working at Lilly Pulitzer in human resources, and I'd love to work at J. Crew, like in corporate fashion. And I remember they emailed me while I was on an interview for a different job. Like I was doing a phone interview, so I could see my emails, and I was so excited when they're like, hey, we have actually like a contract recruiting coordinator job. And it was going to be running their like internship program, and standing up their kind of like this like early rotational program. But it was in recruiting and it was at J. Crew. And I was like, I don't care that it was a 3-month contract. I was like, this is my dream. I have to do this. So I went in for the interview. It was a very rigorous interview process. Interviewing at J. Crew, Mickey Drexler has to interview every single person that
Wow.
works there. So the final interview is always with Mickey. Because I was a contractor, I had a 3-month contract. Within 4 weeks of my contract, I remember getting pulled into a conference room and I was like, I'm terrified. What's going on? Not that it was like Devil Wears Prada, but it was like a very intense place. Like you are working in the heyday of J. Crew. I mean, this is peak bubble necklace. So I remember just being so excited, like so nervous when I got pulled into this conference room and they're like, we actually want to convert you to full time. I was so excited. And I was there for then 4 years. So I did have to interview with Mickey. He was just such a force, such a power, and just so fun to work there during such an incredible time for the brand. So Jenna was there, Samsak was there. Obviously, Mickey was on his loudspeaker. I learned so much. So eventually, my role was in recruiting for design, merchandising, marketing. So I was spending most of my days like reviewing portfolios for jewelry designers, for pattern designers. I would say like probably 80% of my job was merchandising. So the merchants who are curating what's going into the stores and planning the buys. Also planning an allocation team. So how much are they buying? It was the coolest job because I spent my days just interviewing people, like kind of like
Yeah.
you running a podcast. Like I was just
Yeah.
hosting a podcast 10 times a day.
Sponsored by J. Crew.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so much fun. So I remember all the little interview rooms I would go in and I would do a lot of phone interviews with people who applied or were referred, but then also like in-person interviews all day long. I would have to bring candidates up for their final interview, sit with them in their interview with Mickey. I remember sometimes there was actually a girl I worked with at Lilly Pulitzer and she was applying for a job. She had her final interview. I was like helping her through the process. I remember being in one of the interview rooms, like taking my necklace off and putting it on her. Being like, I was like styling her. Yeah, I was like, hold on. Like I was like, just take my like big statement necklace and I was like popping her collar, like rolling up her sleeves. And I was like, I wouldn't do this to anyone else, but it's because we had worked together at Lilly and she ended up getting the job and she worked there for quite some time. But you just like it was such a fun place to work. I learned so much. I then eventually headed up a program there where we would take top talent from the stores all over the country. If they were like let's say if you were in college and you were working at your local college J. Crew store, it was called the Squad program. This is like also at the same time when like Taylor Swift had her squad and we're like, do we rebrand this program? But we rolled with it. So I ran the Squad program, which was bringing up really high-performing store talent as they were graduating college, bringing them in, and then I managed 30 people, and at the time I was like 25, managing
Wow.
30 people, moving them all around. So I would have them do 3-month placements in different parts of the business. So I'd be like, okay, like try to figure out what people loved, what they were passionate about, and then what they
Mhm.
wanted to learn more of, and then did like this matchmaking process to put them on different teams. But yeah, I was their manager. I did their performance reviews. Like it was such a fun experience. And then
Seriously.
I'm kind of a planner. So at this time, personally in my life, I had been with my boyfriend, who's now my husband,
Mhm.
since we were freshmen at Lehigh. And I knew he wanted to go to business school. J. Crew was very New York. So me kind of talking through this, I was there for 4 years. So it changed so much, but I was like, I know I can never move to a California. I can never move
Mhm.
to a Chicago or a Boston. Like he would have to go to a business school in New York. So we got engaged. It was so exciting. Like everyone at J. Crew was like, oh my God, let me see your ring. Like everyone was just so invested. It was so much fun. And I remember thinking, so funnily enough, the J. Crew corporate office building was in the same office building as Facebook.
Okay.
So every single day for 4 years, I would see people like go up the Facebook elevators. I would be going in the J. Crew elevators, and I would be like, wow, it would be really cool to work in tech, to work in a place that has, offices all over the country. And I just had this like knowing, I was like, one day I want to work in tech.
Mm.
So I had applied for years to jobs at Facebook. And I remember after probably like 3 years of applying, I got an email back from someone. They're like, hey, like we want to interview you. I was like, no way. I got the job. It was a very long interview process, very crazy interview process. But I remember giving my notice to my manager, who had the same manager my entire time at J. Crew. And I remember interviewing at Facebook being like, I hope no one sees me, like going to the elevators. I remember like changing my coat. I remember thankfully it was raining. I like was hiding under an umbrella, like walking in the lobby. Like I was like, I can't have anyone see me, like go up these
Yeah.
other elevators. And it was like, I remember it was like 2 4-hour chunks of interviews. So I had to like twice be like, I go, and I was like calling in sick from J. Crew, obviously, but I was like, I can't be seen in the lobby. Like it was causing me a lot of stress.
Yes.
But I remember getting the job, giving my notice, and it was funny because I was like, "You guys can like come for lunch. Like, I'm going to be downstairs." So I still stayed in touch with some of my J. Crew coworkers, and then I was at Facebook for 9 years. I mentioned this to you before, but I gave my notice yesterday.
Yes.
So after working there for 9 years in so many different roles, and then moving all around the country with Facebook, I'm really excited for just this next chapter. But it's been really fun to have that corporate fashion experience, have the tech experience. Again,
Yep.
like I feel like I started at the time it was Facebook, now it's Meta, but I started at Facebook when like kind of Instagram was new, and
Mm.
they had acquired Instagram, and so many changes have happened. But it's been
Yep.
really cool to kind of like be inside of the machine. And it's funny because at J. Crew, I was like, I had one manager the whole time. At Facebook, I've had 14 different managers. So
Wow.
yeah, for over 9 years. So like just constantly shifting, moving around, working on different teams, standing up different teams, working on different projects. Like it's just been such an incredible experience.
Yep.
And to also be able to see the power of the platform, and how it can change people's lives and businesses. And that's kind of like what inspired me to start my own Charm Lane.
Yeah. So, okay, so much to go back to there. The first being, I mean, J. Crew, what a dream during the bubble necklace.
So fun.
So
Truly.
I was living for the stories that you're going through. I think every preppy girl, it's like an icon, right? And then tell me a little bit about Facebook, like what were some of the things you were working on there? Were you, in more of HR there, or were you more, on the tech side? Like tell me some things that you were doing there.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously coming from J. Crew, running that rotational program, being a traditional recruiter, I started out in recruiting for global marketing solutions. So hiring and searching for talent who could do ad sales, which is obviously like the number one driver of revenue for Facebook is Senator, we sell ads. That's what Mark said when he was on his like congressional hearings. And so it was like a very important like position to be
Mhm.
recruiting for. So anyone who kind of was like a media buyer, but also working with Meta's top kind of advertisers who were advertising across all of our platforms. So I spent 2 years in that job. Then I actually transitioned. They actually really encourage us to move a lot internally.
Oh, interesting.
It's something that's very like, it's very good. Whereas at other jobs, I would say like you kind of have to like stay in your job. But at Facebook, like everyone's always moving around. So I was in New York for probably a year. My husband at the time had gotten into the University of Chicago for business school.
Okay.
I did not want to move to Chicago. We were married at the time, and I was like, this is the plan. Like, I will get a really cheap apartment. We moved to Jersey City out of New York, and I was like, and you get a really cheap apartment in Chicago. And I'll just come like every Thursday, and I'll go back home every Monday to go back to my job at Facebook. Like, I don't, and Facebook had a huge Chicago office. So some
Okay.
days I would go and work in the Chicago office, but it sounded great in theory, but then think like we're in two kind of sketchy apartments. Um, and I was just like living on a plane, right? Like flying every single weekend. And so we only did that for about 3 months. And then I was like, okay, I need to transfer to the Chicago office, which
Yeah.
was so easy because they had offices everywhere. So I transferred from Facebook New York to Facebook Chicago. And then I ended up moving to a different role managing a program. So I pulled kind of from my experience at J.Crew, managing that squad program. So I managed a program, was building a lot of different international programs. One of my most favorite roles that I've done, probably 90% of my time while at Meta, was teaching Instagram Story School. So that's like a fun little side project. They always encourage you to have like, it's like a 10% project. So 10% of your time is something totally different from your job. So I would be
Okay.
teaching creators or brands how to build an engaged community through specifically Instagram stories, going through
Okay.
like how to use fun little tools in Instagram stories. So that was kind of like my most consistent thing,
Yeah.
even though I was moving around to different teams. Then I managed MBA recruiting. Right now I'm managing PhD programs for artificial intelligence and machine learning. So like
Oh my
very
gosh.
back to my nerdy roots, I guess. But actually right now I technically work out of Cambridge because there's a lot of programs up there.
Okay.
But I ended up working on the West Coast for Meta for many years, then moved back to the East Coast. Now I'm up in Cambridge.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's been such a fun experience. I've worked with people a million times smarter than myself. I've learned so much about who I am as a leader. So probably about 4 years into my time at Facebook, I switched to being a manager, and I
Okay.
loved nothing more than like helping people develop their careers and
Yeah.
understand like how they want to move, how they want to grow, what they want to learn. And now it's really cool to have this chapter come to an end after 9 years. Um,
Yes.
it's funny because
So
I got my offered 9 years ago to join. So now it's like kind of very full circle, being like, and I'm giving my notice. I'm going
yeah.
full time, betting on myself, which is scary, but really exciting.
So exciting. I mean, first of all, I think you are one of the most well-rounded person that I have ever met, especially like career-wise. I mean, with the fashion background, with like the tech, with the HR and management. I mean, it's very impressive. And I think you sort of set yourself up perfectly for your own, blog and influencing, and then now brand. So tell me, starting Charmlane, like when you started Charmlane, as an influencer, as a blog, what was the thought process behind that, and when did you do that?
Yeah, so it's funny. I had a blog in college. I loved like the early blogging days.
Mhm.
My sister had a blog. I had a blog. I just was very into it. But I remember one of the contingencies of my offer at J. Crew at the time. I don't know if they saw this, but it was a no social media policy.
Mm.
So when I was accepting my offer, they confirmed with me. They're like, you have to shut down your blog to work here.
Oh,
So
interesting.
and I was like, okay, like no problem. This is my dream job. Like I will shut it all. I'll burn it down. Like I'll burn down the blog. No problem, Mickey. So yes, I had always loved like that space and that creative
Mhm.
outlet. So when Meta has like incredible maternity leave. So I've had 2 kids while working at Facebook. For my second child, they give you the full month off before your due date.
Wow.
Now that you like know me well, I can't sit still for a full month and not work. So I was like, what can I do with this month of time? Like I had folded all the baby clothes, I had done all the things. And I was like, you know what, let me, in I think it was January 2023, my New Year's resolution was like, I want a side hustle. Like I want a separate creative project, just something else that I can do and I can like pour into and focus on. Because I was like, I love working at Meta and in tech, but I really want to build my own business. My dad, my whole life has had his own business, and I always really admired that. And I always was like, it'd be really cool to like be my own boss and build
Yeah.
something. I have no idea what that would be. I tried a bunch of different things, but by that month off pre having my second son, I was like, you know what? I'm teaching this Instagram story school. Let me try to like make this Instagram thing work for me.
Mhm.
And in April of 2020, I actually had grabbed the handle Charm Lane because I mean, this is like peak COVID. I was sending fun little bracelets in the mail to my friends who lived all around the country. It's just like
Aw.
happy mail, like just like do something nice. And I was like, oh, like maybe I'll like post photos of the little bracelets that I'm making on Instagram.
Mhm.
Never did that because at the time I was moving from Chicago to Los Angeles, like didn't have time to like post the bracelets I was making for my friends during COVID to like spread cheer. But I was logged in to that handle still, but it had like 0 followers, 0 post, just was like a no photo.
Yeah.
And on my maternity leave, I was like, oh, this is a cute name. I'll roll with this. Sure. And it's already logged in. Woohoo. I started posting 3 years later after originally grabbing the name Charm Lane and just was like all in. I was like, oh, this is such a cute little name. And it's funny because it started with this like jewelry intention of like
Mm.
sharing photos of these charm bracelets to now I'm launching a jewelry brand. So Charmly, when I first started, was very focused on like the grandmillennial lifestyle, preppy. Like obviously I worked at Lily Pulitzer and J. Crew. Like I love that style. So on Charm Lane, it's a blog, an Instagram, I have a TikTok. Like I'm sharing kind of classic style, millennial style. We talk a lot about Nancy Meyer's aesthetic. It's been the most fun creative outlet. And about a month in, I was like, I know I can do this full time. Like, I know I can make this a business. I remember getting approved for LTK, getting an Amazon storefront, learning so much because again, I'm like, how do I learn how to do this? I have no idea how to like the back end linking, as you know, Patricia, it's like,
Yeah.
it's so complicated.
But I feel like if there's anyone that can figure it out, it's you. So
Oh my God, thank you. And I'm like, how do I do this? I'm like, I have no idea. So it was such a fun challenge. Like I'd be feeding my baby. Newborn babies sleep a lot. So I was like making collages on my phone in Canva while he would be like sleeping on me. And it was just so much fun. Those early days of Charmly. And it's funny, it's that time not long ago. It's only because my little guy is 2.5.
yeah.
But it's been so fun. And I have now worked with so many dream brands. I've actually worked with Lily Pulitzer. I've worked with J. Crew. I'm
Wow.
like, this is just so full circle. And
Yes.
and Bobble Bar. Like I remember I interviewed
Yeah.
at Bobble Bar for a job and now I love the team there. They're so wonderful.
So tell me about then, deciding to start a jewelry brand now, right? So what obviously it kind of was in the back of your head all along from the beginning, but how did that come about in terms of like now's the right time and what was that process like sourcing manufacturers, all of that, and then when's it launching?
Yes, let's get into it because I could talk about this for forever. But basically, so I'm very like by the book. Even like I'm always putting like the appropriate disclosures on all my stories. I wanted to trademark the name Charm Lane like months in. I was like, I need to make this legit. I need a copyright attorney. I want to copyright this. When you're filing trademarks, you have to file in different classes. So before I even knew the jewelry line was starting, I was like, I want to file in jewelry. I want to make this jewelry brand one day. So I got my trademark application went through. It takes about a year, and I was able to file in that class. And then I was just like, I know one day I will be making a product based business
Mhm.
off the back of this kind of influencer business, if you will. Um, so yeah, I think it's kind of like going back to like what you loved as a kid, right? Like as
Yes.
I mentioned, like I was making those friendship bracelets and
Mhm.
I loved beading, and I've always known I wanted to have a jewelry line. Like that's just something I always like. I really look up to Kendra Scott and her
Mhm.
story, and I think it's really cool to have something tangible. But I was very close with my grandmother. When she passed away, she left me all of this vintage jewelry, like
Oh.
cameos and really old school charms. I remember she only had three granddaughters, so me, my sister, and my cousin. And she had this incredible charm bracelet. And part of her kind of will was like each of us had this process to like pick out what charms we wanted from her charm
Oh.
bracelet. So these, and they're like huge pendant medallions. And I love all this jewelry, Patricia, I really do. But I was like, I would love to update this for today. Like for
Mm-hmm.
the modern girl, the cameos are so beautiful, but it's like a woman's silhouette on like a peach cameo. I'm like, oh, wouldn't this be so cool if it was blue and had florals on it? And
Mm.
so it's the line is very inspired by this like heirloom jewelry my grandma left me, but
Yeah.
updated for the modern girl of today. And it's been so great to within the Charmlane community understand like what they love. Jewelry is always been like one of my top sellers, and certain colorways. So I have all this data that I'm able to then shift to building a
Mhm.
tangible line.
Smart.
The
Yeah.
manufacturing process, though, I will say, so probably in April of this year, I was like, it's time. Like, I'm ready to do this. I'm going to start. I know when we chatted, you were like, work with Nicole. So and that was probably May when we were at lunch
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, perfect. I'm just going to hire Nicole. We're going to work together. We're going to do this. She's going to do the branding. She's been incredible to partner with on the Shopify site. But
Mhm.
the manufacturing process has been crazy because I really was committed to finding a US based manufacturer.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of time this summer in Rhode Island, meeting with different kind of like heritage families there who've been doing jewelry for so long. I've been sampling so many different manufacturers. I ended up not going with the Rhode Island manufacturer that I had been
Okay.
working with, but I have so many incredible prototypes. So I think I heard someone say this on your podcast. I'm pretty certain I did. Maybe it was you had Victoria Dunn on.
Yes. Years ago. Yep. A few years ago. Yep.
She's incredible. I love her. Um, so I was just started pouring through import records. So I downloaded
Mhm. Yes.
this import record query system. I looked on Import Yeti, just basically typing in any single jewelry brand that I love the quality of and figuring out who their manufacturer
Yeah.
was. And then, so right now, I probably work with three different manufacturers. And the process for me is I have my grandmother's pieces, I'm
Mhm.
sketching them,
Mm.
and it kind of brings me back to like my 3D printing design major days.
Yeah.
I'm then turning those into technical drawings, and then I'm sending those technical drawings to three different manufacturers,
Okay.
getting them back, understanding like who is the best quality. I'm really focused on this being like ethical and
Mhm.
sustainable. So
Mhm.
I found the Responsible Jewelry Council, who you can only be in that council if you pass these very rigorous tests. So
Mm.
recycled materials, people make a living wage who
Yep.
are working on these lines, and that's been really important to me. So I have a couple manufacturing partners who are bringing my designs to life, and it's been
Wow.
so much fun. And it's launching very soon. So I wanted to launch by Black Friday,
Uh-huh.
but I one of the main pieces in my line is actually what I'm wearing right now. This is like a
Oh,
cameo.
so pretty.
Thank you. It's like called the Keep Cameo coin. It's not getting delivered until next week. So I think I'm going to
Okay.
launch in December. I'm really excited.
I
And I
love
already
it.
have like new arrivals arriving because the process to order out, it's probably like 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So I'm constantly like getting inspired by my environment, sketching, doing the technical drawing. And now I have like incredible partners all over the world that I work with to bring these designs to life. And I'm really excited about the quality. But going back to my grandma, she beat breast cancer twice. So she
Oh.
was just like such a force. And I
Mm.
always knew if I wanted to do a tangible product line that I wanted to give back
Mm.
in some way, and really have that be at the center of the business model.
Yeah.
So a percent of every purchase will benefit breast cancer, kind of in her honor. She was such a queen to beat it twice. I'm like, what a like
Yes.
mogul. And she just had really cool style. So it's really in honor of her and her incredible, extraordinary style and the pieces she left me. And I'm really excited to kind of do this in her honor and give back to breast cancer research through the line. So it's so exciting to know that it's like finally coming out.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy for you and so proud because, like you mentioned, we were talking about this back in May, and I sort of knew it was always the dream of yours even before that. So tell me, like, what's price point going to be around? How many like styles are you launching with? Things like that.
Yes. So to start, it will be a line of 5 different charms.
Mhm.
And then I have 4 different kind of chain options. I have 2 different coin pendants. So those are kind of like bigger pieces inspired by like the giant charms my grandmother left me.
Yeah.
Price point, honestly, like the pricing has
Mhm.
been hard to figure out, but it is like the plating I have kind of decide on with my manufacturing partners. I don't want this to be like, gold dipped or flash plated. Like it is a very thick layer of
Okay.
gold on this, and the prices definitely reflect that. So I would say um, I'm looking at some competitors. It's around $200 for like a fully made piece of like the charm and the matching chain. And I
Okay.
also on my site, if you just want to buy a charm, because let's say you
Mhm.
have a chain, because this is something that I do a lot. Like I'll just buy the piece because I want to put it on a chain my grandmother left me or a
Yes.
chain that I made myself. So
Yeah.
I'm selling them separately,
Okay.
together. So there's a lot of different, I would say like the entry level price point is probably 65 for one of
Okay.
the charms. And then for like the full piece together, it's probably like 200 to
200.
250.
Okay. Well, that's so exciting. I can't wait to see more of the pieces. So who would be your dream customer to wear your jewelry?
Oh my gosh. Like Nancy Myers, I guess.
Yes. Oh, I love
That was
that.
fun. She liked one of my reels, Patricia. I about had a heart attack. I was like,
Stop.
there is no way. I just love her. I love everything that she does. I would have said Diane Keaton. Unfortunately, I know that was
Yeah.
shocking.
Right.
Um, oh my gosh, but so many people. Honestly, like any one of like the people in the Charm Lane community who've been with it from the start.
Mhm.
I just got the address. There's this follower and her shout out Laura. She's been following me since I like maybe had like 20 followers.
Yeah.
And this piece that I'm wearing, the Keep cameo
Uh-huh.
coin, I'm like, every time I was sketching it and designing it, I'm like, Laura would love this. So I'm
Oh,
actually going to send her one.
that's
So
so
just like
sweet.
people who have been along for the journey. And then
Mhm.
here's like a great tip, I would say. And I heard this on another podcast, but bringing people in on the design process has
Yes.
been huge. So a
Mhm.
couple weeks ago, I put up a story frame and I was like, I kind of did like a teaser of like, I'm launching this jewelry line. I'm wearing it sometimes. People are like, where's this necklace from? Like, I love it.
Yeah.
Like, you sent me a link, and I'm like, soon. So that feedback has been really great. But I really wanted to bring people along on the design journey because there are so many choices that I'm making that I would
Mhm.
love like extra help on. And yes, I'm
Yes.
asking my friends, I'm asking my family, but I'm like, what is the charm lane? Um,
Yeah. They're your target market, right?
Exactly. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what would they like to see? So I put up this story frame. I'm like, as you guys know, I'm designing this jewelry line. I'm looking for, kind of like a close knit crew to help me like make some final decisions. You know, write this word and I'll put you in my close friend story.
Yeah.
I had 4,000 people want to be added to my close friend
Oh
story.
my gosh.
And I was like, hey, I mean, then I was like, can I tell someone at work, like, there needs to be a better way to like add people into your close friend
Yes.
story. So
Yep.
for Charm Lane, I have this community of people who are helping me make some decisions on the line. And I feel like they're getting so excited about it coming out. It's been so helpful for me to be like, do you like this color gemstone mix or
Yep.
this color? Like what name do you like better? Like I'm naming the
Yep.
colors right now. And we're gonna do like hydrangea blue, sconset bloom, Palm Beach pink. Like I'm like
Cute.
these that speak to the grand millennial preppy girly, but having
Yeah.
this kind of a little team, if you will, to kind of weigh in and help on polls and picking different colorways has been so helpful. And it's just such a fun way to bring people along on like the founder journey of
Yep.
how to even start like a tangible product-based business.
Yes. So you said preppy there. So speaking of preppy, I'm going to ask, what does preppy mean to you?
Oh my goodness, it means everything. It means everything to me. And I know that you asked this on the podcast because I'm a big fan of the show.
No.
I would say it's being authentically yourself
Mhm.
and not trying to be someone else. So I
Yeah.
think growing up, I loved Lily Pulitzer. I loved color. I think back to like my weird basement. But it's just not being afraid of like embracing who you are
Yeah.
and embracing color. I think when I think of preppy, like you could definitely do like the country club preppy, like the old
Yep.
money aesthetic, like kind of yacht club and the beautiful cable knit sweaters. But preppy to me is more colorful, fun, authentic, fresh. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
I tend to be like the more grandmillennial preppy
Mhm.
style girly. But some days I'm like fully decked out in my Lily. Like last week I was in Disney World and I had my, Lily skipper on,
Yeah.
and it's just you could take it so many different ways, but I think it's a lifestyle, right?
Yes.
I'm playing pickleball, I'm playing tennis,
Yeah.
I'm playing mahjong, I love mahjong, I'm needle pointing. Like it can infuse so many areas of your life, but I think it's just, being kind, being yourself, and not being afraid, like not trying to be someone else. Like if you're preppy, like you are fully embracing the preppy lifestyle and it's unapologetic.
Yes, I love that answer. That's so perfect. Now, finally, where can people find you? Where can they shop your collection? Where can they follow on social media and maybe get added to your close friends? Let them know all your handles and websites.
Oh, I love that. Yes. If you want to be in the close friends, message me. I'll add you. At Instagram, it's at Charm Lane. My blog is charmlane.com. For the collection, it's at Charm Lane Collection across all platforms. And then charmlanecollection.com is the online e-commerce store. And I'm hoping to get into some retailers to do some
Okay.
wholesale. So hopefully coming soon on where you can like go see it in person. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been really such a fun journey, and thank you for having me. This has been so fun. Honestly, what a dream to be on the Preppy podcast.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much for being on, and I'm so excited for your new line. Thank you so much for listening to the Preppy Podcast. I hope this put a little prep in your step for the day. Please subscribe, rate, and review on wherever you listen to your podcast, and follow along with @the Preppy Podcast on social media.